Yo, this is KD,
And this is David.
and we are the K&D Exchange, where we exchange music, and as a result, we exchange ideas, bridging the gap between old and new, with all original music produced by. Enjoy. Yo, welcome back to the K&D Exchange. I am your host, KD, alongside co-host David. David, what's going on?
Yeah, man. All good over here. Life is
Good.
going on. How about yourself?
Life is going on. Yeah, likewise. We haven't been able to put together an exchange episode, feels like, for maybe like a couple weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we've been banging out those solo episodes, so check those out if you haven't as of yet. We're doing these K&D extra solo reviews or reflections, which we alternate on every week. So yeah, for those who've been rocking with us up until now, we appreciate you. For those who are new, we exchange albums to each other every week, and we alternate who gives an album. We give an album that we are very familiar with, but the other person has never heard before, so that we come in from two different perspectives, which is kind of the basis of the discussion each time. It's kind of trying to bridge the gap, which has always been our mission statement. So we are on exchange number 35. So we're coming up towards the end of the year, rounding out nicely. We started this in January, so we've really put in quite a bit of work. I mean, we've built up a solid kind of catalog of episodes and discussions, which have all tangential as well. Is that the word?
That is the word.
Yeah, a bunch of other topics have come into the frame as well, not just specifically the albums themselves. We had some stereo talk stuff as well, which is cool. But this week on exchange number 35, I gave David an album. David, what album did I give you to listen to?
Gave me Loyle Carner's Not Waving But Drowning. That was released in 19th of April 2019.
Correct.
Yeah.
And this is the second time Loyle Carner has come into the front. I think he was on the very first episode that we did. Alongside Big Pun. Yep. He was my suggestion, which was his first album, Yesterday's Gone. This is his second album, which he released 2 years later, I think. I think now 2 or 3 years later. So yeah, I mean, without further ado, let's just jump in. David, what did you think?
Well, so I listened back to the first album, and the stuff that I gave Loyle Carner a bly for is the kind of stuff that I'm going to beat him over the head with in this album.
Okay.
So I'm not going to lie, this album was a struggle for me, a real struggle.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, the reason why is because it just didn't grab me at all. And I think I figured out why. And I think that this album review is going to basically confirm, it's going to confirm my sort of like feelings that I've had. I've really wrestled with this bad boy album. But yeah, it was a bit of a struggle, this album, anyway.
How come? Like you said, there's a few things from the first album that was similar here, or that
I let him get away with.
Right.
So what I mean by that is, the kind of, I think my problem was the laid back delivery. While it is very, very, well, it does work a lot of the time. I think that, especially for a second album, it kind of grated on me. I kind of wanted a bit of variation, I guess.
Okay.
And I found that I tuned out for a majority of this album. I just couldn't get into the subject matter. I just couldn't get past it, the delivery. And for me, it was really, I could appreciate that on the first album where he's finding his feet and all that. But from a second album, I'm looking for, where's the development? like I can hear the development in the music.
I was just about to
Um,
say, yeah.
yeah, the music, it sounds great. However, a lot of it doesn't grab me because the content, I found myself just clock watching. And I was clock watching after the second song. I was like, oh my gosh, like I actually can't handle an album of this. And then when it got to the fourth song, I was like, all right, cool. Like this really works. And then for me, the rest of the album, I was really struggling.
Right. Okay.
I'm so, and it might be a bit of a surprise.
I don't know. I mean, I was thinking about how you reacted to the first album, and I kind of get it. Like, I kind of get how when we're talking about uh, this album and the first album are not albums I repeatedly come back to and
Mm,
listen to. But I do when I do listen to them, I really appreciate them. They're like mood albums for me. I have to really be in the mood to listen to it from top to bottom.
yeah.
Um, because you're right, it's very mellow. There are a few moments when it picks up a little bit, um, and his delivery, yeah, is much more laid back and whatever, which I personally really like. But again, I have to be in the mood for that. And the
Mm,
production as well, it feels very, it's very mellow. There's a lot of feeling behind it, a lot of emotional kind of feeling behind it, and a lot of this. It's not like they're not like big beats, they're except for maybe a song like "You Don't Know" or "Ice Water." If you take a song like "Still" or "Crispy" or "Desolate," like the drum sounds are very light, the production is very light and
mm,
um, air, like not even airy, but you can imagine him sitting with a group of people around him and them playing like their cups or something. I don't know, like to make those drum sounds, and he's just kind of talking, and they're just the musical accompaniment to his talking, that kind of thing. That's what it sounds like sometimes. So I actually fully understand what you're saying with that. um I guess for me, this album is a bit lighter than the first album. First album was a bit darker, in my opinion. Um, not what's the word? Not pessimistic or negative. It was a bit more. Maybe darker is just the right word. A bit more downbeat.
yeah, I think it had a bit more edge, the first album.
Yeah, that's what I think as well.
I have
Musically,
I have a couple of questions, right? So
yeah,
for you, um, when it
yeah.
comes to Loyle Carner, I mean, I don't know how he identifies, but is he a rapper or is he a poet? Like, maybe I need
Uh,
to reframe how I view him by maybe
I,
how he defines himself.
I think he defines himself as a rapper.
Okay,
Um,
because
yeah,
for example, like I was thinking about this, and I wonder if I'm being really harsh on this album
right.
because if, say, for example, he said, say, for example, it was George the poet that did this album,
Sure. Yeah.
I would understand the delivery.
Okay.
However, if you're calling yourself a rapper and
Mm.
you're doing this, which you show absolutely no improvement on the first album whatsoever. And what I mean is, lyrically, he's okay, like he's fine, right? But what I mean is,
Yeah.
in the way that he delivers his raps and his rhymes and stuff, the delivery method, I think I have the problem with because I'm like,
Sure.
you're laid back, cool. That's plan A. What's plan B? Where's something else? Where's the gumption? Where's the give me a bit of testosterone? Like where's a bit of
Testosterone.
yeah? Where's the edge? Like it's all very like yeah, and another one, and I'm just so chilled, and I can't believe it, and I'm my mother's son, and you know what I mean? I'm like yeah, that's cool, that's cool, but I can deal with that for your first album. However, when it comes to the second, I don't think that's cool personally.
I don't know. I Does he need a plan B if plan A worked?
That's
Because
that's true. That's
it
true.
has worked, and when he performs these songs live,
Mm,
they sound really, really good. Like I've seen him live,
oh,
and
fair enough.
the whole crowd fully on it. They know the words, everything. Like it's a different energy when he does do it live. What it feels like for me with Loyal Carner is that when I see him live or performing them live, you really see the songs come to life. and then when you go and listen to it yourself in your headphones, it feels like headphone music to me. You're on a train, you listen to it, this guy is just here just chopping it up with you about life. That's why he's a bit more measured in his delivery. He's a bit more laid back, like he's talking. But when you really break it down, he's still doing the technical rhyming, because he is a rapper's rapper. And I mean, I've listened to him on Romesh's podcast. That was one of the ones I listened to. And he's talking about his hip hop influences and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, he's like fully on that. Like he's a bit of I think he's a bit of a deep thinker type of guy, and that plays into his whole aesthetic of when he raps as well. I also think that makes him a bit accessible to a wider audience, is that he's not being very overly, what you call it, like too like forward or aggressive in his delivery, you know, kind of like Kofi Stone as well. Like Kofi Stone's very relaxed in his delivery, a bit more, the way he writes I think is a bit more energetic, I guess, like the way he frames his words and stuff. Loyle Carner I think also picks different types of beats or different production, which he kind of gives that more laid back approach to it. And I mean, a lot of people love his voice, so I mean, I don't even know if he needs, I mean, when he gets on a song like or Desolé, when he speeds up a little bit more, and what else was there? Ice Water, where he does put a bit more oomph into his voice and into his delivery.
Yeah,
I think those kind of, he's not being overly aggressive, but I still think he showcases how well he can do, like how he holds his own in that respect. I don't like, I get what you're saying, but I don't know if he needs to do, I wouldn't necessarily call it a lack of improvement. I would just call it that he's kind of
consolidated.
He's keeping it in his lane, and is musically he's changed it up because he has a clear kind of, like, this whole album is about him. A lot of big parts of this album is about how he's found like a new love. He found a partner or whatever. And a lot of the songs are about her and about the relationship between kind of his mother accepting her and her being part of his new life, and then him reflecting back on kind of the things he loves in his old life and stuff, like Crispy and all that sort of stuff. And Ottolenghi as well, because I think he's a cook as well. Like he loves cooking as well.
Best song on the album.
Yeah, Ottolenghi is a beautiful song. But yeah, so I think in that sense, like, that's the distinguishing feature between this album and the last one. I mean, have you heard the song Yesterday that he put out?
No, I haven't.
Sometime last year. I think I discussed it on the podcast.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. And see, that one's a bit more like, the beat is much more, it's a Mad Lib beat, and it's much more in your face. And he sounds like, it's not like he's like shouting or being aggressive on that song, but he sounds like very strong on that song, if that makes sense. So I think it would be interesting if he did do a whole album like that, where he just had beats and he just rapped. But I don't know if he's that kind of artist. I feel like, I mean, it's been how many years? 2 years since this album? He seems like the type that would leave it every 2 or 3 years, or until he just has something, like some form of inspiration. Do you know what I mean? But I don't know. I mean, it feels like it's working for him. So I don't know if he would change it up, to be fair, or if he even has to, you know?
Yeah, because I've been thinking myself, you know, when it comes to like bands or artists or anything like that, especially if they have like a first banging album and then they come out with the second, why would they change what works, right? And I do totally appreciate that, because the first album did work. And it, you know, garnered him a lot of success and props, and quite rightly so. I thought it was okay. Like, it was cool.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, for me, when it comes to like, you know, expanding on your sound and your brand and your skills in that. I think that some artists would like to push the envelope maybe, but I guess like not everybody does, because some artists, will replicate what worked and also consolidate on that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's kind of nice like talking to you about it, because I feel like I was being harsh. Like I was going to come in like all guns blazing, and I've been really thinking about, I guess, thinking about the intention of the album as well, because quite clearly every song is well thought out. The
Yeah.
beats are really nice. Like I can't complain about the production. I think it's
Yeah.
more, maybe I'm not in the mood for it. It just didn't hit me in the right space and time. Maybe in the future I'll come back to it and be like, oh mate, like what was I thinking? I
Yeah. Right.
it just didn't grab me. And one of the most shocking things about this was that I couldn't pick out a top 5 on this album from listening
Okay.
to it. Yeah, but I could pick out a top 3, but two
Right. Okay.
thirds of that top 3 didn't even have him in it. So it's
Right. Oh, so I know which songs you're gonna.
yeah, yeah. But like track
Well.
4, Ottolenghi,
Mm,
was sick, and then hold on
you
a
don't
minute.
know, I'm guessing.
Oh man, where is it? There was Dear Ben, the last track, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
Not Waving but Drowning, like track
Oh,
10.
okay. Interesting.
But that's it. But then I have starred Desolé and Loose Ends as well. So maybe I have done a top 5. I
Yeah,
forgot.
I would count that as a top five. Yeah.
That's a 3 plus 2 is 5. Like quick maths
Yeah.
out here.
Quick maths that.
Yeah, but
I
yeah,
mean,
it's I don't even know. I feel really, yeah, I feel like I'm being mean, but it just didn't hit me. It just didn't
no,
hit
that's
me.
fair enough. To be fair, he's Loyle Carner is one of those artists who's there are some artists that I really, really like. I look forward to them dropping an album. They drop the album and it is almost like I'm expecting this to happen. It doesn't hit me straight away. Like I like it. I know it's good, but um, it will grow on me after a while. And it's at this point where I'm like, okay, I know that this is going to grow on me. Believe it or not, it happens with Royce. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when Layers came out, I was like, yeah, this is cool. And it's only until a couple months in where it became something I just listened to all the time, all day, every day. It grew to that point. Same with Book of Ryan, same with Allegory.
Yeah.
Um, Same with these 2 Loyle Carner albums. They don't hit me straight away.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I'm looking forward to them, especially the first one, because it was like I'd only heard singles from him, and it was like, oh, whole album, sick, can't wait. And then I heard it, I was like, yeah, it's cool. And again, I had friends of mine who would say, yeah, no, I wasn't feeling it like that. They did the same thing with Royce as well, because they're maybe a bit more production focused. Um, but these kind of albums really, when you sit with them, for me at least, they really reward kind of being in the right space, the right time, and multiple kind of and living with the album. I think they're built that way. And that's what I noticed with both of these, because this one as well. I mean, this one is kind of nostalgic for me because it came out when I moved workplaces. It came out during that summer when it was just super like hot, and
Okay.
yeah, and it just hit the vibe, like just hearing that Dear Jean and that little humming and then really like just mellow production, and it would just like remind me of my friends that I'd left at my old workplace and just kind of where I was at that point in my life. Felt like a bit of an outsider because I was in this new place and just starting this new chapter of things like my career or whatever. You know, it was like
and look where that led you.
and
It
look where
led
that
you
led
to
to.
me.
Yeah,
Back to me.
exactly. I feel like that was the only reason I actually stepped into that chapter, was to meet some significant people, and that was it. But
Yeah, for real.
yeah,
As I take on my Thanos,
yeah, yeah, I'll
Thanos
do it
moniker.
myself.
Yeah, yeah. Your failures led you back
But
to
yeah,
me.
like yeah, exactly right. So it had a special like I'd go to the park and have my lunch and stuff and think, did I make the right decision? And I'd be listening to this album quite a bit because it would just fit, like songs like Angel, um, just great vibes. I love Tom Misch as well. Tom Misch has those albums that like they're quite hard for me to listen to now because they transport me back to when I first heard them. And they have such a big, the music is just so beautiful and well made, and just it's just and it hits your heartstrings like emotionally. Like it's the kind of music that for you to get nostalgic about it, like it will really, really hit you, because it's not just a bunch of bangers like, oh, do you remember when that came out? And then everyone would like just party to that or play it in their cars. It's like really personally, and how to say it, like emotionally kind of hard hitting kind of music. Do you know what I mean? And it's with this, like this kind of jazzy, soulful production. Just it takes me back into my own world and transports me there. It takes me out of the present moment and puts me there, and makes me very nostalgic, very reflective. Ice Water, like, what do you think of that song?
Yeah, it's more. So I noticed that, like, with the direction of the music in this album, it's more soul, I guess, than like the Motown that you found in the first album, right?
Yeah.
So with this was with Ice Water, for example, track 3, like it was more Motown. Sorry, Moletown. Jeez,
more Motown. Yeah, you mull over it.
Can't see anything. But yeah, I mean, it's a nice beat and stuff. But at this point, I was like, it feels predictable. Like
Really?
Yeah, I felt it was a bit like, you're just in your bag here. Like, again,
even for Loyle Carner.
Yeah, I did. I said that he's a good storyteller.
Yeah,
but it's a real shame because his voice just
doesn't do it for you.
It just doesn't do it. And I've even put a note here, just like, does he class himself as a rapper? Do I class him as a rapper? Does he class himself as a poet? Do I class himself as a poet? And then I was just thinking, and then I just put a note of, I think he suits spoken word more than rapping. But then again, I don't know him too tough. Like, outside these 2 albums, I don't know anything about him. The thing that grabs me about this guy is that he's tremendously honest. He is a person like you and me. And I like the fact that he makes albums for the right reasons. I truly, truly believe that you can make great music, but you can't just pump out stuff like every year, like some artists do. Because, like, where's your living? Where have you lived experiences that you can put through your music? And that's something that I really, really appreciate about Loyle Carner, in the sense that he's like, hey man, I released in, 2.5 years ago, he released this album.
Yeah.
Nothing's come out since. Who knows what he's gone on, but he will let you know in the next album. He is a genuine bona fide artist. I am not, and I repeat, not slating him as an individual. I'm not slating him like musically or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just a case of the album doesn't move me.
Sure.
Well, sorry. It's so on a keel. My problem is I don't get moved often. And when I do get moved, it's not particularly by the titular Loyle Carner. It is by other elements. So, for example, in the Not Waving But Drowning, I mean, I just felt like the way that lady was just talking about it, I was like, my goodness me. Is that his mum, his grandma, teacher? Or is that a poet?
Just a quote from somewhere. Yeah, so it's not anyone related to him, I don't think.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I mean, I got the impression that it wasn't like him or anyone he knew directly, but I mean,
no,
I loved it because especially when he says, she says, because I put a smile over the pain. And then also, like, I don't fit in the world. And it was just things like that, this person thought that he was waving, but no, he wasn't waving, he was drowning, and things like that. You're like, oh my goodness me, it's so relatable. Like, it's to where we are as a humane population, like on 100%. Earth. And it was just 100%. Something that absolutely hit me. Again, COVID times, we got mad things going on in the world when it comes to everything, and I just found that it really hit me and it resonated. And then the other, the last thing, like, on the album was Dear Ben. Yeah, it was really, it's a really nice way to bookend the album. And it's something I was going to I was almost going to cuss the album because like when I first listened to it, the first track, Dear Jean, I was like, oh, I'm so bored. And then and then I got to the end of the album and I was like, oh my goodness me, I'm not bored. I just didn't get it until now. You know, it was a bit of a journey. And I
Right.
love the way that, you know, Mum's for the win, the way that she spoke.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
one of the most beautiful things as well. And you can tell it's a genuine moment between mother and son. Like
Yeah.
he's moved almost to tears. And it's one of the most beautiful things that I've listened to. And I thought, oh my goodness, you know, the power and acceptance, the power in acceptance from your parents is something
Yeah.
that,
For sure.
you know, I'm going to be 40 in 3 years. And
Right.
you can bet then, you know, my mum, God willing, you know, if she's here and she says, you know, I'm really proud that you made it. Oh my goodness, it's better than anything that anybody
Mm.
can say to you ever, right?
Mm.
And it was just having that kind of acceptance that, you know, his mum's telling him, you know, this is what love is. You know, I accept a daughter now. I accept your choice. I'm proud of
Sure.
you. And it was
Yeah.
a beautiful way to end the album. And I was really moved by that.
Mm. I get that. I feel that. I
Yeah.
mean, it's funny because I have those moments throughout the album,
Mm.
not just at those. You know, that's kind of the feeling I got throughout this, where I get moved quite often listening to this album, and actually, it's one of those things where I sometimes have to wonder. I'll listen to an album like this and think, wow, you know, it really moves me, and it's almost like a new feeling, like being this moved. Um, and I'm like, why don't I listen to more music like this?
Mm.
But then actually something stops me from always listening to music that's constantly moving me like this. And I don't know whether it's because I always want it to feel fresh
Because
and I
you're
don't,
dead inside.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, or I want it to, you know, I want to retain that feeling each time. I don't want it to just, you know, if I keep listening to it all the time, it might lose its feeling for me.
Absolutely right. Absolutely
Um,
correct. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like that happens to me sometimes, or I'll, you know, I mean, I've spoke about it before on the show about how there's certain albums that I just feel like I can't listen to anymore because they just take me back to a certain point, like a certain time that I know I won't be able to go back to. You know, things have changed because that's just life, right? And it's good that things have changed, but sometimes listening back to a certain album, it transports me back in time and it puts me back in the same emotions, and I sometimes just get sad at thinking it's not like that anymore. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's not going to be, you know, and it kind of sad because no one, you know, other people might not be able to share that exact same experience as you. You know, you
Mm.
can share in the fact that you have nostalgic experiences to begin with, if that makes sense. You know, I think everyone can relate to, yeah, there's this particular song or particular photo when I look at it or whatever, or this movie, it takes me right back, and we can relate on that feeling. But people might not necessarily relate exactly to your exact nostalgic experience. And
Correct.
yeah, so sometimes it can, you know, because even people who were there, they might have seen it from a different perspective. Or the worst thing is when a certain experience didn't mean as much to them as it did to you, you
I
know?
think we've spoken about that off air, where
Yeah,
something is massively significant to you, and then you know to the person who else was there, it's like,
yeah.
yeah, but that was a Tuesday. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
It was just like, oh, you still remember that? And I'm like,
yeah, you still
yeah,
on that?
don't
I've been
you?
off that since it happened. You know, and
Yeah,
you're
and
like,
you start thinking, fuck, is everyone else just moving on like with their life so easily? Am I just stuck in the past all the time? But it's not like that, you know. It's the more you talk to people, the more you realize that they have the same feelings. But it's very easy to think that because a lot of us don't like opening up to each other in the first place,
correct.
um, and showing our vulnerability. I think a lot of us think that everyone else is just doing okay, moving forward, got a good kind of handle on their past, present, and future. When it's not always as simple or black and white as that. Because I will get shocked when a friend of mine says, "Yeah, I keep thinking back in my life and thinking, man, I wish I'd done this, wish I'd done that, or man, I really just want to go back to that moment in time." And I'm thinking, shit, you as well. I thought that was just unique to me. I thought everyone just kind of just it wasn't a big deal to them. Do you know what I mean? Um, and this album fits into that kind of category. I could go back and listen to the first one more than I can listen to this one. It's still nostalgic in a sense, but this is like heavily nostalgic. You know, I think the music on here is more soulful, more emotional compared to on Yesterday's Gone. So like Ottolenghi, for example, I remember going to All Points East Festival in August this year. And I was like, shit, I haven't even listened to Loyle Carner for a while.
Yeah.
So I went and put this album on, and I think I got to Still or You Don't Know on the train journey, because I was listening to some other stuff before that. I was listening to Ottolenghi, and it just really, really hit me. There was just something about it that really, really hit me this time in particular. And then he performed it live. And it was cool because I actually knew the words because I had listened to it on the train leading up to it. And it was even more beautiful in person when he did it. And I just really like you know, we talk about him rapping, like he is, I would consider him a rapper because regardless of the delivery, the flow and the cadence and the rhyme pattern is still there. Like I love it. There's they asked about the Bible I was reading, told them that the title was misleading, labeled it Jerusalem, but really it's for cooking Middle Eastern. Like it's just so well written. Like that was just so easy to quote, and it had just like perfect kind of poetic timing to it. And the fact that I could just talk it as well here, I didn't even try and rap it in any cadence, and it just bounced off my tongue saying he's doing over that kind of instrumental. It's like he's got a band in there playing with him, not just
it's not just him on a track.
Whereas, you know, a song like Ice Water is a bit more hip hop. It feels a bit more like that. You Don't Know and songs like that sound like, and Sail Away Freestyle, they feel a bit more like, here's a beat, let's make a song out of it, which is not bad either. You know, that's just, you know, different music's made in different ways. But a song like that and Loose Ends, like they're like what I'd consider beautiful songs, like with beautiful melodies, beautiful kind of just production and everything like that, you know.
I'm kind of glad that we're talking this album through, because, you know, I'm glad that we do this show, because I was fire and brimstone beforehand, and now you've added like this kind of glacial sort of pristine calmness to the fire. I mean, because there are definitely a lot of different elements in this. You know, like especially on track 5, You Don't Know. I mean, I just got Amy Winehouse vibes, like with the beat, the xylophone, the 100%. Production. I was like, oh my goodness me! It was really. There are some really nice little winks to other British, you know, artists. You know, obviously you got Georgia Smith, and Sampha. You know, because as soon as I heard Sampha, I was like, oh my gosh, don't think about it too much. You know what I mean? Like, but quite possibly, anyway, don't need to talk about that guy, but you know what I mean? Like, you know his voice, but also, when it comes to, I just wanted to go back to Ottolenghi, track number 4. I mean, I just put Now We're Cooking, and it's quite funny that he was referencing like cooking, but I was just, as soon as I heard the beat within the first 20 seconds, I was like, like, I'm in. Like, this is perfect music for the win.
For sure.
I just wanted to, I like the fact that he also references Roots Manuva, another British artist who, you know, I was a young man when he was like out doing his Witness to Fitness and that.
Right.
Huge Roots Manuva fan. Absolutely love him. So I was absolutely blown away by the fact that somebody decided to reference him. So well played, Loyle. And I also like the fact that this this song is also a reference to, yes, it's about cooking and Middle Eastern cooking and, you know, the fact that he likes to cook, but also I like the play on the subject of cooking, in the sense that he's writing that song for a future son or daughter, in the sense that, you know what I mean? You know, bun in the oven, so to speak. And I thought that was a really well-constructed,
100%.
well-constructed song. And also the skit leading into this song, where he's just like, you know, he's talking, he's playing this song for a cab driver.
Yeah,
and then the cab driver's like, oh, you know, this is for my son, and he just says, it must be nice to have a dad like you, or something, or you know, he'd be lucky to have a dad like you, or something like that. And I was like, oh, Oh, that's deep, because that's,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that had lots and lots of levels. And then the fact that he's talking about being a dad in the future, like, it's
yeah, for
wonderful,
sure.
you know. Yeah, it's the best song on the album, like, not a problem.
100%. Yeah, I really, really love that song as well. I mean, You Don't Know is a good song, like with it's like the rap track. And I think it's well placed here, to kind of break up I mean, yeah, you've got like Ottolenghi and then You Don't Know. So it's a good kind of back and forth. And then still it's kind of back to the low key drums, low key delivery and stuff. I'm not sure why the It's Coming Home interlude. When was that? Was all like 2018, wasn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so maybe he was probably building this album during that time. Um, and I think that's his girlfriend in there asking him, "Oh, so what does that mean if that's how?" So maybe it's like a little insight into their kind of their their interaction together, or the fact that
yeah,
he's really. I mean, he seems like the type who's really really into football and shit.
yeah. Well,
Um,
because in all fairness, like, having listened to this album after Euro 2020, which was held in 2021 due to COVID, I mean,
yeah, yeah,
my notes on this is track 7, It's Coming Home, and I put lol, it didn't, and I'm still
didn't yeah,
gutted.
yeah, yeah, right.
Like, to lose a final, I was, oh my goodness me,
I remember that. Yeah,
I was gonna take the next day off work, like, I genuinely was. I was going
to
to get
mourn.
the rums flowing if England won, because I haven't seen, I lived through Euro 96. I was 12 years old. That has broken me,
Right.
Euro 96. But yeah, to get to a final and like all of that, like, I've managed to shrug it off. But anyway,
Sure.
um,
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
yeah, man.
Um, Desolate, like I remember I like the way again he sped up on that, and the beat is very like that's the one where it's like the snares and the kicks have this really weird hollowness to them, but
Yeah,
in a quite nice way in my opinion. Like it makes them very free to kind of move around. Like they sound like someone's tapping like a paper cup or something.
yeah,
And and then but with the actual full bodied piano, it almost sounds like the piano is the main focus and the drums are actually the accessory as opposed to the other way around, where the drums are the foundation
yeah.
and then the other parts, the keys are like built on top of it. It actually felt the other way around for this one. Um,
But I felt that
and
the keys were like muted slightly, in the sense that they didn't sonically overpower anything. So
yeah,
it
right.
gave him the room to move
Mm,
around on this track. Because
for
my
sure.
comment on this is, track 8, finally he's awake.
Awake.
um, but yeah, the bass is lovely. And it's a slow beat, it's methodical, like, and lyrically, it's all right. But again, it's the delivery method. Why inject me with stuff when you can give it to me in a tablet form and I can, do you know what I mean?
Right, right.
It's the delivery method that, it's
Sure.
still doing the same goodness. There's still substance there, but
Yeah,
why am I feeling like the pain as opposed to, you know what I mean? I just
sure.
don't know what it is. Like, I
No,
found
I
this
get it.
I
I get
found it
it.
a real struggle.
I get it. I mean, like a lot of these songs kind of, I think, continue with that theme. Like Crispy. I mean, Crispy has these beautiful horn section in the second half when he says, "Yeah, I think that's enough. I don't think I'm going to add any more. You can just kind of let it play out." And then there's these horns playing in the
Yeah.
background that are quite distant, and there's something about them being really far in the background that hit. When I first heard it, I can, if I listen to it now, even in my head, I can remember being on the train on the way back home from work. I can remember what train it was. I remember what I was looking at outside the window, and those horns, and just feeling so. I can't even explain the feeling. It was like it tapped into an emotion that hadn't woken up in a while, and I couldn't figure out why. I couldn't, and part of it was making me think like, man, I need to, I need to lock in with a producer who can bring these sounds out of my head, or bring out these emotions for me as well, because like there was just something about it. Like it was even making me kind of like think about my friends and stuff, just like from back in school, and like my really close friends who I hadn't spoken to in a while at that time because we were all busy with work and stuff. Um, and I think that's what he's talking about in that song. He's talking about this guy called Crispy, and it's like about distant friends and stuff. And yeah, just something about those horns that really, really tapped into something for me.
Mm-hmm. I can hear
There's a
that.
lot of that. Yeah, there's a lot of that throughout this album. Even like the building pianos and strings in Carluccio, they feel very live. A lot of stuff feels very live. Looking back, it's got a really cool drum pattern. Sail Away Freestyle is also another like hip hop track where it's like drums, like
Yeah, give me the bass line all day.
Yeah, all that sort of
The
stuff.
drums win on that one. It's great.
100%. When the drums hit on this album, they hit. But this is the thing. I keep mentioning being on a train and listening to this album and getting really into my thoughts and my feels. I think that that's the kind of place that this album is suited for. So it's not going to be something I put on in the car and bang out when I drive around. It might be for some people. It's just maybe not for me. It's not my go-to for that. But when it came out, it was probably perfect for me because I was doing a lot of train journeys at the time. And this was one of those albums I could just sit there and just put it on, and it wouldn't put me to sleep because I would just be sitting there in this relaxed kind of phase, and he would match my level of relax, of chill, if that makes sense. Like that kind of just calm feeling of just sitting there and just listening to this guy do his thing. The music's not too in your face, but it's not too kind of atmospheric and ambient either. It's still, there's still drums and bass and whatever else. It's just not like raw, rugged and in your face. And when it is, it comes in and it kind of perks you up a little bit, and then it brings you back. There's a whole picture being painted here. Like I said before, Loyle Carner has these albums that you want to get on vinyl, and they feel like they are kind of built for vinyl and they can exist as vinyl.
Yeah, I can hear that. I totally could hear that actually. Yeah, like the crackle 100%. Of the vinyl would bring something. Maybe I'm missing, the live element to seeing it, because everything is different live. I mean,
some rappers are worse live, so it's like
there's a clarity though, isn't there? There's a real clarity. It's like it's basically like seeing a loved one naked for the first time. When I say loved one, I mean significant other, right? So I mean, it's just kind of like
any loved one. Okay.
No, but I mean, significant other, and you're just kind of like, man, I've been waiting for ages to like peel the layers back and see what you're working with, and then you kind of, sometimes it's great. Luckily, it's always been great for me, but sometimes, lots of people have struggled with that. But I guess that there's no hiding, with how a person vibes with the crowd, with how somebody, interacts and moves, and it's kind of like this real kind of like the distance is gone when you see somebody live. They are right in front of you. You're existing in the same space at the same time, right? The myth is gone. So that's kind of the thing. And if Loyle comes across brilliant live, because you've done live stuff, I've done live stuff. I mean, I have sucked before, but I've also improved, and I've absolutely killed shows. And like I know I have, in that moment. But people come up to you, and there is a real tangible kind of feeling, isn't there?
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, you guys rocked it. Yeah, absolutely. And so if 100%. Loyle Carner has that, then we're able to do it.
Yeah, Loyle Carner was great live. He was great live. Yeah. Like he had a full band. I think he had a band there. I don't know. I can't remember because it was a festival. He had. Yeah, I think he did have some live elements there, but we were at the back, and I can't remember exactly. But I remember his voice and everything, his vocal technique. You could tell it was live, and there was no backing track, and he doesn't seem like the kind of person to do that.
Yeah, good.
And he, because he would stop at certain times, and you wouldn't hear his voice, and but he still sounded really good. And he said something interesting as well, and like me and my friend were like, "What did he mean by that?" Because he said something about this might be the last time we play somebody, get a let's like really have a good time or something like that. And we were like, what does he mean by that? Because I remember there was a time when Kendrick said that he was not going to perform anymore to Pimp a Butterfly material live, and that he was gonna kind of recover it in a way of it was like another way of adding value to those live experience. So he was like, if you want to come and see these songs performed live with my full band and get the full thing about it, you have to come see these shows, because then I'm going to retire it. So then it's just that moment in time and it exists for that. Do you know what I mean? And then I move on to my next era. I can't remember if he stuck to that or not. But
Probably has.
Yeah, I wonder if that's what Loyle was talking about as well, whether it's like, some of these songs, when it could have been a hint that more music is coming, and obviously the more music you have, your set list time doesn't change. You can make more and more music, but the usual concert experience is what 2 hours maybe. That sounds right?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 2 hours.
Well, it depends really. I mean, it depends on how much material you've got. Sometimes,
for sure,
you will have like one album which is 40 minutes long. Like Linkin Park's first album was 36 minutes long.
Yeah, and
it was a banger. So how are they going to fill out like an hour and a half, 2 hour show? So
yeah.
There comes you've got
so I mean for like big artists, so if you're going to go,
I'd say like anything in between an hour and an hour and a half is acceptable. Then, but other times you've got like monsters, absolute monsters. Like when I went to see Usher Raymond, that was 2 hours long. I couldn't believe my eyes.
Yeah,
like Beyonce, Jay-Z, all them 2 hours. Well, they got the material for 2 hours, so
yeah,
you know what I mean, dance.
Yeah, sure, yeah. So I can see how for some artists, the more music they make, certain songs will get kind of pushed to the side because it makes way for the newer stuff.
Yeah, correct.
In the set list, whereas some stuff is like, well, you have to play that, so that it will still stay. And that might have been what he was referring to, that he's some of this stuff is not going to get played again. Once my new album comes out, there's going to be a whole new set of songs that you guys are going to really want to hear live, because you're going to fall in love with them. And it's going to have to kick out some of these other songs, because, once you're on your fourth or fifth album, it doesn't mean that your shows suddenly become 3 hours long and then suddenly 3.5 hours long because you dropped another album. Do you know what I mean? The set list kind of stays around the same time.
Yeah, so, correct.
But the discography grows. So you have to then, I've felt it for myself as well. Like the last time I performed live, I hadn't even released. This was before the pandemic, and since the pandemic, I've released 3 projects. I think, yeah. So I have 2 EPs. So I have like a whole wealth of like songs to like choose from now. And so if I go to a show now and they're like, okay, you've got a 30-40 minute set list, which is kind of normal for the more underground shows, I actually have an overabundance of choice now, whereas before I was trying to fill out that time. Now it's a different thing. Like, they're not going to suddenly give me an hour and a half just because I have more albums than someone else does, or more music than someone else on the roster. I'm still going to get given the 30 minutes, 40 minutes. What's changed between now and then is that I've put out so much more music, and now I actually have more choice in what to
present,
what to perform. Yeah. I'm going to have to take out some songs and be like, they're not going to get played anymore. Some of this more other stuff is maybe a bit more significant, or it's been better received, or whatever else, or it's better live. So yeah, I did wonder what he meant by that. But yeah, this even like, we talk about them being on vinyls and stuff, like even the covers, like the cover art and stuff really fits these albums being on vinyl. Like when you see them as actual vinyls and you go to a record store, and especially this one, they look like they could be from any era.
I agree with that. Yeah, totally agree with that.
There's nothing to say necessarily just by looking at it, this is a hip hop album or a UK hip hop album. Especially this one. It could easily be like a jazz album. It could be a soul album. It could be a rock album.
I'd go more rock, to be honest. It looks like an Audio Slave cover.
Oh, so I would have gone more like the soul jazz kind of thing, just by the colors of the C and the writing that's on the top and stuff. So that's like, exactly. So the fact that we both would pinpoint it as a different kind of genre says something about it. Even the first album, I wouldn't be able to tell exactly what kind of album it is.
Oh, see that? Yeah, I've got that album cover like in my head. That to me is that is a hip hop album. If ever I've seen, like, I'd imagine Kendrick coming up with that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Do you
It
know
looks
what
a
I
bit
mean?
like To Pimp a Butterfly, right?
Exactly. Yeah. As
Yeah,
soon as I
yeah.
saw it, I was like, yeah, I get there.
Interest. If I didn't know who Loyle Carner was, but I saw that album cover like on a record,
Loyle
I would probably,
Carner.
I would, I would look at it and think, I would pick it out, look at it and think that's cool. But then I think I want this to be a hip hop album so that I can have this in my collection, or so I can kind of listen to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not so I can listen to it, but that I kind of respond differently to it. But it could, if someone's a soul album or a jazz album or something. More so this album that we're talking about now. This one feels like it's not as clear that it's a hip hop album.
Agreed. Yeah.
It looks like one of those old like funk covers or something, or
You know
soul.
what? Yeah, I've just looked at it again. I mean, to be honest, it's indiscriminate.
Yeah, it's not very obvious, which I really like about it.
Oh, mate.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
what an
yeah,
album. It is all right. I mean, I think you've talked me round. I was going to give it a 3 because I really didn't.
You were going to give it a 3.
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't enjoy it. I will give it. I'll give it a 5 because it's even you've managed to rescue it. Like, that's pretty sizable feat.
Yeah.
This is mid for me.
Wow.
I know I've already done the top 5 as well at the start. I know it didn't hit, and I think maybe because it's cold and it's miserable, and like I'm actually feeling the strain of the last year. Like I'm ready for it to be Christmas and like have a little break. Because I haven't really had a break this year. Not really. I think I've had a week.
Right,
and like, you know what I mean? Like, littlest man is now like 3.5 months old. Didn't get paternity because I'm a contractor.
Oh,
so like it's been brutal. So maybe it was the wrong time of year, wrong time to listen to this album. Because any money, now that we've spoken it through, if I go back and listen to it again, I will think, what was I thinking?
I hope so.
Maybe I'll be a lot more sort of like open to it, but it just didn't resonate, and I just found myself, the dial didn't get moved that often.
Sure. I say wait until early next year, or even summertime again, or when you're in a setting where you can relax a little bit.
Yeah, what's that? I mean, with 2 kids, like what's relaxation?
That's what I mean. It might just have to be for a certain, I don't know, if you somehow are for some reason are going on a train somewhere and you happen to be by yourself.
Yeah, mate.
Put this album on, man. I don't know when that's going to happen.
The train on the stairway to heaven when my heart finally says, "Nah, that's enough."
That will be the time to put this album on and just chillax your way up to the next chapter. So
absolutely.
And reflect upon your own life,
Yeah,
actually, this would be the perfect soundtrack for that. Actually,
just be like, look at those opportunities that you missed to be awesome. You could have been awesome, Dave, and instead you. Do you know what? I was actually thinking about this today. Like,
right.
I mean, if somebody, if at the end of my life I have to give account, and I know the angel or whatever goes, "Hey, man, so what do you think about your stint on Earth?" I'd be like, could have done better, I guess. I did all right.
Yeah, right.
But what did I really do? Anyway,
I think a lot of people would say that more than we think. And I think the angel would say back to you, that's good enough.
Yeah, or they'll be like, no, you should have done better. You haven't. Like, you will wonder it's not Hades, because that'd be too harsh. And it's not the Elysian Fields, because that's too nice. There's this place. It's basically purgatory in the Greek myths. Can't remember what it's called, but
What's the Elysian Fields?
The Elysian Fields is basically heaven in the Greek myths. Okay. And like Tartarus is hell or Hades or whatever it's called.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's this place basically, like, they're like misty mountains that you just wander, like in purgatory.
Sure. Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah, I used to love that mythology and religious stuff.
Mate, I'm a nerd for all things Greek mythology. Yeah. So
I used to love the artwork and stuff as well. Like when people, they would actually, you go to the Louvre and they would have these big paintings
Like
about
these
like
murals and stuff.
of like religious kind of things that have like just events that may have been in the Bible or kind of Greek myths and stuff, but they would paint it so detailed that you would think, man, imagine you were actually there and you saw that shit happen. That would just
Oh,
change everything. But that's the whole point of the art, is that it really brings you into that setting. Like, this is what it would be like if those things actually happened in the world that we live in. You know what I mean? And I just used to be obsessed with that stuff. I mean, I still really like it now. But yeah, that's that. So what was your score again?
5.
5. Fucking hell, man. There's a big 5 balloon behind you as well.
Micah's birthday a couple of weeks ago. So
Yeah.
my oldest birthday,
The irony that.
Spider-Man as well.
Yeah. Cool.
Ledge.
Spider-Man. Oh, he's got good taste.
He does,
Yeah.
man. He's a top boy.
Very good taste.
Yeah, man. Right.
But yeah, calm. All right, we finally got that done quite nicely as well. That was a bit of a departure from our usual format.
Right. I
We kinda
really
did a bit
enjoyed
more-
that.
We did a bit more of a whole, what's the word? Holistic,
Holistic,
a bit more
yeah.
holistic kind of approach to that, not just track by track. It felt good just talking about it like that.
Yeah.
And maybe this kind of album warranted it, you know?
Yeah, I don't think that it was I don't think like going in track by track, like I think the album was so well done in its conception. I think that the way that it was constructed, I don't have any problems with the way the order of the songs or anything like that. I love the fact that it's bookended with the same sort of melody, like different subject matters. It's crafted so well. The problem, as I said, it just didn't resonate, and that's the thing. I can appreciate it for what it is, but I think I need more time with it. Even though we've had like extra weeks and stuff. I think maybe the time of year, maybe mindset, things like that, it just didn't break through. But I think it might actually. So we'll see.
This is like I said, this is like a mood album for me. So
yeah,
I get that completely. Even for someone who loves it, it's not getting played all the time like that. But yeah. So what album are you giving me to listen to next week?
Band of Gypsies. So Jimi Hendrix and
sick.
Yeah, boy. So Band of Gypsies live. That's what you're getting.
It's a live album.
It is indeed a live album, and it's so I wouldn't say that I'm an appreciator of Jimi Hendrix. I'm not a massive fan as much as I love playing guitar and stuff. I just think that this has it's such a nice departure away from Jimi Hendrix and the Experience. So Noel Redding and Mitch Mitchell was a bass player and drummer. It's so different because they've got another drummer and bass player with them. There's like an all-star band. I can't remember who they are though. But the vibe is really cool. Like, and I just want to know what you think about it. It's pretty cool.
Sick.
But yeah, man.
All right, looking forward to that. All right, do your thing.
Can't believe it. Guys, apologies for taking so long for getting this out. We will do better. This went, pretty nicely. So we'll see how we go for next time. Solo episode will be out on Thursday.
Yep.
And thank you very much. If you're still with us, blessings to you and everybody that you hold dear. We're all we got out here in these weird times. So be safe, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.